and Top 5 is back. I didn't really promote it on Instagram enough, but I'm hoping that people are here. I noticed we had some awesome people already jumping in the chat. But thank you all for hanging out, and welcome back to the most enjoyable countdown show on YouTube, Pop Culture Playtime. Me, Fire Guy Ryan, and we are joined by the awesome Raul of Hialeah Comic Bro, the Slab King of Florida. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. I'm so happy. I'm so excited to be here with you guys, man, talking movies, something a little different than comics. So,
right?
Yeah, man, it's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait.
And I'll tell you, the idea you pitched was so good that Ryan and I are already saying to each other on the side, like, we need to talk Raul into doing this for the 60s, the 80s, the 90s. Like, we got to continue this.
Dude, I'm in, man. I love it. I love it. I might not be the great knowledge, but I love movies, man. I just love movies.
And that's right off the bat one of the things I want to mention. Yeah. We're not picking like the all-time great films of the 70s. We're picking our favorite films. So there will be some dissension in the ranks as far as what we think is great or what we thought was our favorite. But just remember, we're not going for like, this was the most historically significant film of the 70s. No, these are the ones we watch the most, we love the most, and care about the most. But I'm sorry, I skipped over my partner in crime. I'm going to throw him up here big. Look at him. Fire Guy Ryan is here.
Well, hey everyone. It's me taking over your entire screen. Ryan, I'm here. We're talking about 70s movies.
I feel like I'm not seeing you enough lately, right?
No.
Need more Fire Guy. But he's not getting a lot of sleep. We want to make sure Ryan also gets his sleep. So we understand he's a hardworking guy, and we appreciate it.
You're top 5. Sleep right through it.
So I want to shout out a few folks in the chat because there's a ton of people here early. Life with 2 YouTubers and Robert Galvin were in the chat right off the bat. They're already telling us, you better have this and you can be better. Don't forget these movies. So they're already letting us know. I appreciate that. Then we have Hialeah and Ryan in there as well, and Borinquen Comics, and let's see, Z Collects. I'm skipping over Perry because I know that he probably hasn't heard of these movies because they're too old. Let's see here. We got Casey Vigilante, 70s movies, man. Kachung in the chat. Bueller says, I already know John's favorite 70s movies with Caligula. Wow.
I just saw that too, man.
Oh, wow, Bueller. Dropping fire. I'll tell you right now, Perry is going, Siri, what is Caligula? So
I know of it, but I don't know any details.
Yeah. I worked at a video store. I know that one. Before Mike is in the chat. And Lady Fantastic, thank you for coming. Much appreciated. Everybody. Very entertaining. The first YouTube we've watched in 2 weeks, Kachung has been busy. If you don't know DK Comics and Cosplay, the channel, it's Kachung and Delphia, and they do cosplay, they do comics, they do all kinds of things. They are crazy AOK givers. They were just at Dragon Con in Atlanta, and they had some cool costumes. If you go to their Instagram, you're going to see some amazing, amazing stuff. My favorite is the like assemblage of the Green Lantern Corps, or the different colored lanterns. I don't know if Ryan saw that, but that's right up his alley.
Yeah, I saw. I was all over that.
That was cool, man. Too cool. So welcome to Top 5. We're talking 70s movies today, a decade that is probably maligned in music, but usually highly regarded in film. You know, disco, you can put it on a shelf, but these movies, I felt like this is a decade to remember. Ryan, how do you feel about the 70s as a film decade?
I also like the 70s as a music decade. While we're talking about that, I'm
going to put you in timeout right now.
Me too. I do too. I love the music, man.
I'm all about that funk and that disco, man.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Me too, man. Me too.
As far as movies go, I'm realizing some of my absolute favorite movies of my entire life are from this decade. But also, I learned a lot of the movies that my gut immediately went to kind of just fall just either too short or a little too beyond the cutoff. So it made me, and that's why I was talking earlier about maybe doing a 1960s list or a 1980s list or something to catch those movies that kind of fell out of our target window here.
For sure. Glitter Duct Tape, Stay Puffed, and Casey Vigilante, thanks for coming by, you guys. I do agree there was some good rock and roll that came out of the 70s. I'm not going to burn on the 70s, but it's usually known as the disco era, so you got to watch out. Raul, how did you feel about them? We talked a little before we got online about the 70s as a movie era. How did you feel about it?
I started looking up the top movies, and I was looking at all these lists, and my God, man, it's just jam-packed with classics. It's funny, Ryan said about the movies just fell out, out of the 70s, because I had my number one movie. I had it in my head. I love this movie, and it was 1980. Just by a few months, it missed, and I go, oh my, that was my number one, number one. So I totally agree with you, Ryan. But the 70s, man, crazy movies, bro. I can't wait to talk about them, man.
Yeah.
Some of my favorites.
And for me, like I was mentioning before we went live, that like I grew up with a dad who wanted to show me movies from the 40s and 50s, and he didn't care for the 70s as much as far as the films that came out in the 70s. So I got a little bit less of that, a little more of the James Stewart, a little more of the Humphrey Bogart and John Wayne, and a little less of the Pacino kind of stuff. But as I got a little older, I started watching some of those, and then of course, I'm going to say it, in film school, there were a whole bunch of film teachers that were obsessed with this decade, and I got a whole newfound respect for it. And the efforts to sort of, if you guys don't know the history of film, like the early days, it was a studio owned you, right? They would sign an actor or a director to a contract, and they would own you, and all your movies would be made by them. They would tell you who was going to be in it, what you were going to do with it, how much money they told you everything, and you just went and made it, actor, director, whatever. And then the 70s came along, and these great directors started, like these young guys started shattering the mold and saying, we're going to do it our way. We're going to bring this actor over to this person. And the system shifted. I think there was a huge upheaval in that time, that 60s into 70s. It was really cool, the kinds of films that were getting made.
Yeah, it was crazy. It was just a crazy decade, man. I freaked out looking at the movies, man. It was, and I knew them. But at the same time, when you start looking, oh my God! And what about this one? And what about this? I got several lists, guys. I got several lists.
We're not gonna slow it up anymore. Yes, TJ, there were some great rock and roll bands. I'm not talking. It's the disco that I'm taking shots at. Definitely the disco. Nice to see you, Lady Fantastic, and Glitter and Duct Tape. I said hello, Perry. You're not on the show. What a shame. He's supposed to be listening. This is his homework. TJ. We are teaching Perry. Right? So this show is usually a drinking game. I'm going to say we're nixing that tonight, and just I got work early tomorrow. Fire Guy Ryan's on a break from the drink. So we're going to just do this as a debate discussion show tonight. So if you're here for boozing, I'm sorry, you're going to have to tune in tomorrow night to Perry's late night show.
Dude, I had hurricane parties this past week, and I'm good too, man.
Yeah. So we're going to start with our number 5s on the list. We're going to go through. Everybody's going to share their number 5s. However, if you don't know, if Ryan shows his number 5 and it's the number 1 on my list, when it gets to be my turn, that's the one I'm going to reveal. So that we'll end up with the same, each of us having hopefully one movie left. Okay. Yeah. Ryan, I'm going to let you start us off with your number 5.
So I feel like every time we do a top 5 list, I end up really struggling to pick my number 5. And this movie in particular, I spent the better part of the past 2 weeks, really not wanting to pick it. I really didn't want to pick this movie, but I ended up pulling the trigger last night and just going with it. I put it at number 5, or the original Star Wars. I'm putting on here as almost like an honorable mention, just because I can't not pick A New Hope in terms of the impact that it had on me and the things that it did for me as a child, and growing up with that movie and the level of nerdiness that kind of opened the doors for me, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. And it's my number 3 right there, because how could you not? 1977, Star Wars, man.
I didn't put it on my list.
Didn't want to.
I love it.
And I think when you said 1980, I was thinking in my head Empire Strikes Back, because that was a movie that would have been higher for me, but it came out in 1980. But yeah, I mean, it's freaking Star Wars. I've watched it a trillion times. Yeah, I fully agree with you. It is all-time great movie making, entertainment. It started so many things off. Yeah, lots of people shouting things out in the chat. Comics for Blame is in there shouting it out. Where was the one that cracked me up? Only as 5? Oof.
A lot of there were at least like 3 other movies I really wanted to pick in this spot, but I didn't find them early enough in my life, or they weren't like favorites of mine for long enough of my life, and I couldn't really justify kicking Star Wars off the list in favor of something. I don't know, something
I
like.
almost wore the Star Wars shirt, but I was like, is this going to just give away the pick? Like, why not?
Maybe.
Ooh, Kachung says his number 5 would have been Apocalypse Now, which Hialeah and I discussed earlier as well, but we'll get to that later. We won't need to talk about it right now. But yeah,
my list, man, this is crazy.
Yeah. So that was my number 3. That was your number 5. So Hialeah, what was your number 5?
Okay, my number 5 was a movie that I saw for my cousin's birthday. We went to the theater. I was, I think, 8 years old, and this movie scared the crap out of me. I had to go out. My mom had to take me out. I couldn't finish watching it. I was just I was petrified. I have a very vivid imagination, and my number 5 is Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
Ooh.
Donald Sutherland.
The remake.
The remake, man. That movie just blew my mind. It had Leonard Nimoy, Jeff Goldblum. It was such a well acted. The suspense, the tension. I just adore that movie, man. It just still freaks me out. The ending.
Oh yeah.
Oh
God, people.
Oh my God, such a great movie, man. Freaking adore that movie.
I've seen both versions, the original and they're just great movies, absolutely. Mm-hmm. And I will say there's probably a lacking of horror in general on my list because it was a good decade for horror.
Yes, it was.
There were a lot of all-time great horror films, Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the like. There's some great horror here, and I've seen several people shouting out good stuff in the chat as well. I don't want to give anybody's picks away, but there are some great comments. Casey Vigilante threw out a hot film. There are a lot of movies that made my top 20 because, again,
yes,
we admitted before going live, this is a decade to remember. Mm-hmm. You could easily do a top 5 year by year through the 70s, much less just the 5 from the 10 years all put together.
This was very hard to put together, man. It was I told you I was going back and forth, and
the first thing Raul said when he got out was, I took my list and I scrapped the whole thing and I just used all my alternates. That's my list now. I changed everything.
Pretty much, man. Pretty much.
Hardcore Audible. I love it.
Yeah. Pretty much is what I did.
All right, so I'm going to go to my number 5, which is my only horror pick on the list. So, okay. Everybody shared one. Now I'm going to lead off the second round here of picks. It's the only horror film I have on the list, but I had to represent this filmmaker. It's Jaws. Dude, I freaking love Spielberg, and this is the Spielberg that everybody needs. This movie is amazing. It is phenomenal. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this movie. I remember being a kid and reading this book at the beach. That's the kind of reader I was. I read this book at the beach as like a junior high student. I loved it. This movie is unreal. I hear there are even places in Texas where they do like outdoor screenings of this movie, and it's in the summer, and people are sitting in inner tubes in like a lake watching it. I'm like, that's the way I want to see this movie now. It is so good, top to bottom. Acting, Scheider, you talk about like that. Those guys are just top drawer. This movie's so freaking good. Love it. There he goes. I'll get off of me now.
I thought that shark lived under my bed the night I saw that, man. I thought it was gonna come and chomp me up, man. I was very vivid imagination, man.
And this was a good decade for Spielberg films. There's a lot of great ones in there. But for me, this was the one. I tried not to make. I mean, we joked beforehand. There were several directors. I could have just picked like all of their movies would have made the list. Like just pick that one guy and put all of his movies. Mm-hmm. Spielberg is nearly there because this is when he hit, and he rolled right into Raiders of the Lost Ark in the 80s with 81 Raiders. So he's an awesome guy.
Yeah, he was crazy. He was crazy hot.
All right. So let's go to Raul. What is your number 4?
Okay, my number 4, you actually hit on it right before we went on because of someone we were talking about. But my number 4 is American Graffiti.
Oh, yeah.
I just love this movie, man. I don't care when I catch it. I'll stop and watch it. Richard Dreyfuss looking for the blonde, and then oh my God, so many good parts, so many actors. I love Wolfman Jack scene.
Yeah.
Um,
The music.
Drivers, you know, he's talking to him, and then he leaves, and then you see Wolfman Jack go into his show, and he's like, "Oh my God, that's so cool, man!" American Graffiti, guys.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen it, you know, I mean, it's George Lucas before Star Wars. You got Harrison Ford, like it's like his first big role, and even that he's got a tiny little part in it. He's not in it all that much. It's definitely more of a Dreyfuss film, like you're saying, and a Ron Howard film.
Ron Howard.
Those guys are really. There's Ron Howard as the actor, by the way, not the director,
right?
Because this was a Lucas film, and then it bled over into his later stuff. But yeah, great.
That was pre Happy Days, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Happy Days, yeah.
What'd you think, Ryan?
So that's the first movie we've talked about that I have not seen.
Really? Oh my
great
God.
one.
That one, yeah.
It's all that like Happy Days-esque stuff, but for me, it's the Dazed and Confused of its era, right?
Yes.
Dazed and Confused, which is a great film looking at the 70s. You have but made in the 90s. You have a film like American Graffiti made in the 70s, looking at the 50s. It's the same idea. You got these high school kids looking at the end of their high school career, looking ahead. What's life going to be like now? Trying to make big decisions. Hilarious, powerful. The music in both films,
amazing.
Like there's a lot of. I honestly would be shocked if Linklater, who made Dazed and Confused, and I know a lot of people love Dazed and Confused. That's why I'm mentioning it. Like I would be surprised if that director was not a huge Graffiti fan, because it's clearly he drew a ton from that.
And it's like what you say. It's going from that movie is going from the 50s into the 60s, and it's like the passing of the innocence, and it's about to get a whole lot darker for them, man. And it's a crazy coming of age movie, man.
I'm gonna put Bueller in timeout if he keeps talking like this. I'm just gonna tell you right now, Piranha is not better. You shut your mouth. Roadhouse Man needs to quiet it down a little bit. Yeah, it's also the cars, the hot cars, the racing, the drag racing, all that kind of stuff. Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, so that brings us to Ryan's number 4 pick.
You said you're not doing a lot of horror movies. I had to make an active choice to not make my list majority horror movies because
there's so many good ones.
Oh, look at his shirt! Let's look at the shirt he's wearing.
Exactly.
Dude, it would have made my 10 if this is what you're picking.
It might be a hint to something on my list, but my number 4 film is Alien.
Ooh,
with a different horror movie. That one is probably the movie, like for me, a big part of this list was how much this particular movie, see?
Oh, is it on your list, Hialeah?
It's my number 1, man.
Whoa.
It's my number 1. It's my number 1 movie, man.
All right, we've had our second crossover.
It's my number 1.
Good thing I'm working tonight. We'd be 2 shots in already.
You've already been 2 in. I'm still just 1 in.
Oh, goodness.
My number 1, dude.
So this is Ridley Scott.
Yeah,
you go dive in, buddy.
I'm not going to dive in that deep.
Go back up. And we're back. There we go. That was a great job.
Woo! No, dude, I love this movie because it's one of the closest movies I've seen to them really getting H.P. Lovecraft on film.
Absolutely.
This is my favorite Lovecraft movie in terms of a mysterious monster that is way too powerful and strange to even comprehend, and it's just a fun horror movie to watch. It really kind of breaks the mold in a way. You have your kind of good-looking, roguish kind of captain character who you think is going to be the main.
Yeah, Tom Skerritt, so good.
Dallas,
exactly. He doesn't really end up surviving so well. I guess, and then I don't even know what Ripley's job title was in that movie, and I just watched it yesterday.
Yeah, I don't know that they specify exactly what.
It just flies under the radar for the first half of the movie, and then turns out that she's the biggest badass of the whole damn ship. So, it's kind of a cool.
And it's an unusual look at that whole outer space thing, because the truth is it's so special effects light, the movie. They build some amazing sets, and then they just let the actors run around in it. Mm-hmm. And they have it's no digital, so it's a guy in a rubber suit. It's not like they're not digitally affecting anything. Mm-hmm. What I love about it is it's so down. Everything's played down for realism, and you're not gonna like see all the cool outer space shots. There's only a few of those. It's really, we're indoors. We're stuck in this place. You're stuck in a metal tube with a beast.
Very claustrophobic.
Even the Nostromo, the ship that they're on, it's not your Star Wars, it's like a freighter in space. It's the realism that I love, man. Going down the corridors, just in space, no one can hear you scream. It's just badass movie, man.
Yeah. So this is your number one, Raul. What did you want to add to the topic here?
Dude, it spawns so much good stuff. I didn't see it in the theaters. I was a little too young, and I just remember hearing that in space, nothing, and the thing would open up on the commercial.
Right.
And I'd be like, oh my God, what is that? That's gotta be so. And it's just there's no blood, really. Well, except for the one scene.
One bit, yeah.
But you barely see the alien when Dallas dies, and he's looking for get out of there, man. The tension, the suspense, and then he just turns, and it's, oh man, just great movie making, man. Really, Scott, really good stuff, man. Love it.
Yeah, and I remember for the longest time, and maybe even to this day, it's one of those where the sequel is amazing, and I always argue, like, is the sequel better? Is it? They're so good. But what I like about the original, and what Ryan was trying to say, that feeling of claustrophobia. Yes. I feel like this film is like suffocating me, both in the actual physical face suffocating, but also just like the claustrophobia of there's no way out. Everything is tight. You're cramped in everywhere. Nothing is. It's not Star Trek either, where it's like clean and beautiful future. This future is dirty and just nasty and full of rude people, just nasty people. Nobody's all like.
It feels like the 70s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It feels like the 70s.
Yeah.
I love it. The 70s in space. It's just an amazing film.
Kachung says she was a warrant officer, which I don't know what she's doing in space with these guys as a warrant officer. See, Ripley is the most influential female protagonist in cinema. That's a powerful and probably accurate statement. Yeah. I fully agree with that.
Yeah, I do too. It's just amazing. You didn't see that. If you went into that movie, you didn't know what was going to happen. You really didn't. They kept you guessing. You would think that would be a movie that you would go into the theater and you think you got it figured out, and man, will it turn on you? You would not know. And what about Ian Holm?
The android, and the reveal that he is an android.
Come on,
man. Powerful sequence. And again, a sequence that I think has been, Ian Holm, I still see the android, when I look at him.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy movie, man. Crazy movie.
So let's see now then. Ryan, how many of you revealed now? Just 3, 2? That's it?
My 4.
I think Hialeah, you've now gotten 3 revealed, right?
I've gotten 3.
Okay, so then we got to start back around with Ryan this time.
All right. My number 3?
Yeah, wherever you are on the list. I'm going to reveal my number 4 because I already revealed my number 3. There it is.
Halloween, number 3. Definitely my favorite horror movie. My parents showed it to me when I was like 7 years old, I think.
You're serious? Oh my God.
I just remember. I don't remember if my first rated R movie was either Terminator 2 or Halloween, but Halloween definitely had a bigger impact on like the trajectory of my entire life because horror movies just speak to me, and that one above all other ones really just kind of it still scares me. Like it always will get to me. That movie just kind of cuts right to the core of what is scary.
Absolutely. Well, and then, I'm a big Carpenter fan. So you got a guy who's writing, directing, and doing the music for his own movie. And that music is so memorable. Just the piano notes, right?
It's serious.
So intense.
The whole movie, I think, is perfectly like simple. Like the score, like the mask, even like the plot, like everything about it is extremely distilled and down to like the core of what you need. It's very essential, I guess, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And they're shouting out other Carpenter films because he is a master, especially in that 70s, 80s era. I don't know where The Thing comes in. I thought it was an 80s film, and I absolutely love The Thing.
That's Okay, if we're doing the 80s, I might be
That one's gonna
away
pop.
already. Yeah, I might be giving one away.
Yeah, I mean, he has so many great films. To his credit, he just really knew what he was doing. I think still has great films. I loved In the Mouth of Madness. That was one of his films from the '90s that I thought was really cool and underrated. Talk about your H.P. Lovecraftian kind of thing. Awesome.
Darkness.
Yes, right.
Darkness, yeah.
And Escape from New York, which I still think is just an all-time kick in the pants kind of movie.
It's crazy. Halloween. I'll tell you my story of Halloween. We got it on HBO. I think I was older than you, but my parents were like, "Stay in the room. You can't come out. You can't see this.
Right.
It's not for you." And my dad and my mom barely speaks English, and they were shitting. They were terrified watching that. And I was like, "What are they watching?"
Yeah.
I'm not old enough. I was scared, man. Yeah. My dad was like on the edge of his seat, man. It was crazy. That movie, yeah.
So I want to shout out a few people in the chat. Lady Fan, I'm just going to mention some movies. I'm not saying if they're on our list, but I will definitely say all of the ones I'm clicking on were on my short list of maybe 15 that I was working from. Close Encounters of the Third Kind is a great movie. Let's see here. Oh, yeah. American Graffiti getting shouted out. And The Shootist. This is from Liking the Covers. Thank you so much. Some Godfather love. Bueller always going out of the box with meatballs. Respect the outside the box. Discovery Bay, thank you for coming by, brother. Much appreciated you hanging out with us. Let's see. Animal House. Great movie. Definitely was on my short list. I'm not saying if it made it. Bad News Bears. Definitely looked over that one. Clint Eastwood was a beast in the 70s and 80s. There's a lot of good stuff in there for sure. Several people throwing out like Outlaw Josie Wales, which I know what you meant there. Casey Vigilante. I know what you meant. What did I miss? Anything? Fistful of Dollars. Yeah. Again, a lot of those spaghetti westerns. He did a great job. Mm-hmm. So we're on my number 4, and then what? Everybody will have 2 left, right?
Yes.
Got 2 left. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I got 2
number 4. Here we go. I have the poster hanging behind me in like every video.
Do it.
Oh, here it is. Look, right there. You know it's Chinatown. I freaking love it.
It was coming.
Had to be there. I'm sorry that the director is not necessarily somebody that you want to hang out with personally in life, but this is an all-time great movie. Chinatown is epic. Jack Nicholson was a beast in the 70s, and this could quite possibly be the pinnacle of what he did. I love the twists. I love the style. It was the first time I felt like, and I had grown up watching Humphrey Bogart. It was the first time I felt like somebody had updated the detective noir genre and done it right. And then, of course, it took, in my opinion, another 20 years before somebody rolled it again with LA Confidential. Like those are the only 2 times I felt like somebody legitimately nailed this form. And Chinatown is so unbelievable. Every time I watch it, I catch some little bit that I was like, because there's so much of the movie not explained to you. You just have to see it visually. When he's catching the glasses that are under they're in the water of that little pool where somebody was drowned. He's catching little things and figuring little things out. I love all the layers and the way things interconnect. It has so much backstory that is just not explained, but just there, and you feel it because it's Chinatown, Jake. It's Chinatown. And just an all-time favorite for me, absolutely. And so, had to be on the list.
I'm surprised it's not number 1. I really am.
The reason it gets that priority spot is that poster is unbelievable. I love that as a piece of artwork. And I have another poster for a movie called The Limey that Steven Soderbergh did in the 90s that is a sort of modernizing of noir and has a similar feel as far as with color and the palm tree and the smoke. And I used to have them side by side in my first apartment with my wife. That's the only one that's lasted and is still hanging. But I just love noir posters. I think the look is so freaking elegant. Let's see. Awesome. JP says, I can't complain about John's pick. I'm so confused right now. Is this top 5? Yes. It's confusing, JP. We're counting down our 5 favorite films from the 1970s. Do you need the banner, JP? Here you go, buddy. Look. Banner is back for you, brother. Hulk smashed that banner. So this one is a big favorite for me. So that leaves my number 1 and number 2 that haven't been pulled yet. Still awesome.
I want to say too. I really looked at Chinatown. I really wanted to pick Chinatown, but I've only seen it like once or twice, and I didn't discover it until recently. And I couldn't not pick Star Wars. That's one of the movies that Star Wars edged out of my list. Even though I wanted to pick Chinatown, I wanted to pick a bunch of other movies that I couldn't pick. Clockwork Orange, really wanted to put on my list.
Yeah,
that was on my list, and I took it off.
Look, there's some other ones being thrown around: Rocky, Paper Moon, Willy Wonka, Apocalypse. Look, TJ with some throwing out some beast.
Oh my God! 3 Days of the Condor, Clockwork, Marathon. Oh,
it touches my heart to know that TJ the Slapdragon is a big Rocky Horror Picture Show fan. So that's pretty awesome right there. Just gotta give a little love there. Some Superman love, and yeah, I love Hitchcock as well. I don't know that he had any really great ones in the 70s because his movies were definitely earlier than that particular run. Look, some other Discovery Bay throwing out some good ones as well. But we'll have to see what rolls out in our top 1 and 2 picks, or at least my 1 and 2. Ryan, what numbers do you have left?
I have 1 and 2 left as well.
Ooh, and
I got 3 and 2. I got 3 and
3. Woo! So I'm going to go to Hialeah first. He's going to do his number 3 on his list.
Okay, my number 3 was actually mentioned on I believe Kachun might have done it, or Life with Two YouTubers. My number 3's, you got to do a Spielberg movie, man, and Close Encounters of the Third Kind, man. Come on.
Great
movie. That movie is crazy good. Another Dreyfus. Just the whole oh my God, it's so well done, man. That's my number 3. I could see that all day.
And I weighed that one versus Jaws, and I went back and forth because I was not going to pick 2 films by any one filmmaker. You could do a giant Spielberg list or a Lucas list or a Coppola list, and I was like, nope, I'm going to get just one. And I went with Jaws, but yeah, I could. It was almost a coin toss.
It's
great movies
from the beginning to end. That movie's good, man.
Duct Tape is with you all day.
Yeah, man. That movie is just starting with all the different things, the boat in the desert, the people, oh man, just waiting for what's going on. Oh man, good stuff.
And it builds to a powerful ending that only recently was it pointed out to me there's so many layers to that movie there's so many elements that you forget about because you're just in it and the time. You want him to go with these aliens. But you don't realize he just freaking ran out on his entire family. He has a whole family that he's like, peace. I'm out.
Dude, he just said, forget it, bro. I gotta go. I gotta go, man. Once he was done with the potatoes, what was it? He was doing the mashed
potatoes. Yeah.
It was just nuts. And then getting the trees out the yard, out the window. Oh man, forget it. That guy lost it, bro.
When that was really pointed out to me, I couldn't believe how many times I'd seen the movie and hadn't really thought about, he just totally bailed on his entire family. I never really thought about it.
It's crazy. He's a dog.
I love the suspense of it. There are so many moments that I think, like E.T., which Spielberg did in the 80s, this is a movie where you have you could see how another director could have made this a horror film. But Spielberg goes right to the edge of that and then finds the heart. You know what I mean? And it's the same with E.T. There's so many moments in E.T. that could be freaky. Like the kid throws the ball into the shed and the ball rolls back out. And you're like, okay, we're like on the border of Stranger Things right now.
Yeah. It was just great. What about the part where he's in the truck and you see the car go by and then you see the other light come and it's like, oh, damn.
Yeah. And then it goes up and over. Yeah,
bro.
And then all stuff starts moving in the car and
the mailboxes start going back and forth. Yeah, man, good stuff, man. Love that movie. Sorry,
Ryan, we've been talking over you. What do you think?
One time, if I see a movie once, I don't remember it, and I saw Close Encounters one time. I don't remember that movie at all, except for the potatoes, because potatoes.
Because how do you forget a guy making a giant mountain out of potatoes?
It's all good, man.
I love when he then brings he decides, I'm going to do this out of dirt, and he's like bringing the hose through the window and he's like spraying it down. He's basically hosing down the middle of his living room.
Crazy stuff, bro.
So cool.
He's probably pissed that he left his family behind if he's going to spray the living room with a hose,
Right? They're like, okay, peace.
They might have left him, man. It might not have been him leaving that. They left him.
All right, so I'm going to go with my number 2 and then Ryan will do his number 2. Mine has been shouted out several times in the chat. I want to give credit where credit is due. It was just recently Discovery Bay. Young Frankenstein, baby.
Wow.
I freaking love this movie. It is easily the funniest movie I've ever seen. Easily my favorite comedy. This movie is great. And I'm sad to say Perry's already shouted it out, which kind of bummed me that he actually does have some good movie taste occasionally.
This is the first movie Perry has seen that I haven't.
Oh, this is so good.
Man, I wouldn't say that out loud, dude. I would not say that out loud.
I'll show you up Perry for this is the one time. Now you're out. I'm a big Mel Brooks fan. I before I even knew who he was or I saw this and I was like, this is unreal. By the way, it's one of the very few comedies to be nominated for Best Screenplay at the Academy Awards. Written by Gene Wilder and Mel Brooks, this screenplay is hilarious. They used all the original sets from the original Frankenstein for their movie because they hadn't been destroyed yet.
Really?
So they just went down and shot on the same sets and used them.
Wow.
It is spot on perfect. Gene Wilder is unreal. He is so good in this. And of course, everybody, Marty Feldman, Peter Boyle, like this cast is spot on. And I absolutely love this film. And again, the funniest movie I've ever seen, just bar none.
That's an awesome pick. I love that movie also. Awesome pick, though.
So, Ryan, you got some laughs ahead of you if you want to watch it. Oh, and a great underappreciated cameo from Gene Hackman as the blind man. So when Frankenstein escapes, he's wandering the woods. It's true in the book as well. He ends up at a house where there's a blind man who can't see what a monster he is. And so he's feeding him. Gene Hackman is the blind man, and he first pours him a cup of beer and then does cheers and breaks the mug. Then he gives him some soup, but he can't see, so he's trying to pours it in Frankenstein's lap. Then he's trying to light the cigar, but he lights Frankenstein's finger. It's like the whole thing is genius timing, editing, and it's Gene Hackman with a big old fake beard and everything. Hackman is.
I didn't know that was Gene Hackman. I got to go back and watch that. I never.
So good. Oh, look, people throwing out lines, nice knockers. Like, how do you go wrong? That's just one of the great lines. Nice knockers. So good. Yeah. So yeah, definitely had to be on my list. Ryan, what's your deuce, brother? What's you got?
I've been keeping a close eye on the chat, and I don't think I've seen anybody mention this so far. I could be wrong, but I don't think anybody's talked about it yet, either in our stream, like three of us. This is definitely number 2. I had it at number 3, and then I watched it the other day.
You got to hold it up again so people can see it. Make sure they because you didn't say the name of it.
Taxi Driver.
You talking to me?
Exactly. Extremely relevant also, by the way. If you decide to watch that movie again, it's disturbingly relevant to today's world. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely just a tortured look at like how kind of isolation and loneliness can drive somebody to do something not so great, even though they kind of think that they're doing a good thing. And it's just a really it's a really scary kind of look into somebody's downward descent. But it's an awesome movie because it's Taxi Driver. It's Martin Scorsese.
Well put, man. Well put.
And he's another filmmaker who was having a great run in the 70s. And I was looking at a bunch of his films. I think I mean Mean Streets is one of his earliest films, and you got like De Niro looks like a baby. He's so young in that movie.
Brian, you're shaking your head.
I don't care for Mean Streets. I love Martin Scorsese.
Me neither, man. I couldn't stomach it.
I like it. Oh, it's so painful and hard to watch, but I like it more than a lot of the films that he did later on. I like it more than Casino. I like it more than a lot of the films that he gets a lot of love for. I like Mean Streets more. But yeah, I do agree. Taxi Driver, it made my short list. I'm not a big enough Scorsese fan, I think. I was like, you're right there.
No, he's top notch for me, and that movie is
me too.
That movie gets me.
And some huge actors. I mean, you have Jodie Foster, like one of her first big roles, and she's not. What did she win an Oscar or nominated for an Oscar?
Isn't that the movie that Hinckley fell in love with her for?
Yes,
he fell in love with her for that. Right?
Yeah,
to try to get her attention with by shooting Reagan. Yeah. She was like 12 or 13. She was 12 or something.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know where Raging Bull fell, but it's probably a 70s movie. And Mad Max, I didn't realize Mad Max was a 70s movie.
It's 80. Mad Max is 70s.
Yeah. So but I'm more of a Road Warrior fan than the Mad Max fan.
Me too.
I get it. I get what you're saying, Kachung, but you're an Aussie, so you're like, Mad Max. I get it. Mm-hmm. I've seen Mad Max. I got to see a screening of Mad Max in at like a widescreen film festival with the original Australian soundtrack and dialogue, because the version most people see is dubbed. They dubbed it in American, so you didn't have to hear the Australian accents. You don't hear Mel Gibson's actual voice. To hear it with the Aussie accents is phenomenal. It's way, way better. So if you get the chance to hear it that way, I recommend. What are you laughing at me for?
It might be mean. Kachung might get mad at me, but I'm just visualizing the accents and just them speaking in Australian accents.
But the funny thing is, I was always bothered by the film when I saw it, because it's like almost Godzilla-like, the dubbing, where you can like see that it's dubbed, and you're like, why? Come on, they're speaking English.
True.
All right, so we're at Hialeah Comics number 3.
No, I did my 3. It's my number 2. It's my last one.
Oh, we're on the last round. Everybody's got one left.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So then, guest goes first. Hialeah on the list.
My number 2 movie, and I thought about this. It's just a movie that I love. And nobody's mentioned it because it's really a cult film, but it's The Warriors.
Oh,
I just love The Warriors. When I was a kid, I loved it. I still love it. I showed it to my daughter like a few months ago. She loved it. I know all the gangs come out to play. It's such a good movie.
Yeah.
And it's funny because people mention the lines like, "Can you dig it?" I love The Warriors. Come on,
I'm putting Perry up because he's saying it. Come out and play.
Come out to play. Can you dig it?
Yep.
Love it, man. Love The Warriors. I actually met the lead guy. I think what's his name, Michael. Oh my God. I met him at a con. I forget the lead guy that he played Swan.
And that's a movie that has serious legs. I mean, people are still talking about that
video
movie.
Games.
I'm seeing references to it in pop culture all the time. Real legs.
Yeah, and it's just a cult movie, but I love it. I'll stop and watch that any time of day. I'll watch that. It's just a great
nice. That's a great one. I didn't even think about it. Oh, this is TJ. Damn, Xanadu came out in 1980. Yep, buddy. Ooh. Seeing The Warriors at a drive-in with your parents, that's OG.
Yeah, that's OG. I when that movie came out, man, there was like gang fights in theaters, man. Some theaters didn't want to show it. And you look back now and it's like, dude, the gangs are ridiculous, but they're so cool, man. The baseball furies, oh my dude, they're ridiculous, but
it's almost like Michael Jackson Bad kind of
stuff. Yeah. They're so cool, man. They're still so
right? Or Beat It. What is it? Beat It.
Beat It. Love it.
Warriors.
All right, Ryan, do you want to go? Did you say you've never seen it?
You've never seen The Warriors? Oh my God, man!
Ryan needs to come out and play.
He needs to come out and play.
Basically.
So now Ryan's got a couple of movies he can add to his list: Young Frankenstein and The Warriors. Boom, boom. The
American Graffiti. Got a few, man.
Graffiti and Jaws. I should probably watch Jaws again.
So good. I honestly, having done this with you guys, I really want to rewatch a bunch of movies from the 70s now. Yeah. Absolutely. Terry, turning into the Education of Fire guy. I don't feel alone. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Terry doesn't feel alone.
Terry is slaying it right now. I've never heard of Swashbuckler, but that sounds like something I'm gonna have to check out. Burning Block. Thank you for coming by and shouting that out. So Ryan, you want to go next or last?
I'll go now.
All right.
Something tells me we have the same film.
It's possible.
Oh, how cool would that be?
I've saved this director for last. Ooh, which one?
Dude, obviously the first one. I'm going the first one.
Part 2.
You're gonna pick number 2.
Two, baby.
You can do a number 1 and I'll do a deuce, buddy. But yeah, all day. All day.
I seriously debated putting both of them on my list for like a while, but I did. It's been my favorite movie for my entire life.
It's here in the other list. It's here in my other list.
There you go. That counts.
Yeah. Great. That's a no-brainer, man.
I got that same DVD somewhere, but I guess I don't have it because someone must be borrowing it.
Look, I had these. I was gonna have it on my list. This is part 2. This is my pick. Part 2.
Yeah. So mine, yeah, I went with part 2, but it's a coin toss, right?
It's a coin toss, man. Yeah, they're both amazing.
And when I almost considered making a Coppola list. Like I was really, I mean, you throw Apocalypse Now and The Conversation on here, you're one movie away from an amazing top 5, all by the same freaking guy.
Mm-hmm.
In one decade, he had 4 of my all-time favorite movies. Like that's insane. Yeah. So go ahead, Ryan. Run your mouth a little.
I got something to say about it too.
It's been my favorite movie since I was like 12 years old. For something about it, I've fallen in love with like crime and organized crime, especially as like a storytelling genre ever since then. But yeah, something about this movie, like the music, the story, the acting, the editing, the way it's shot, like the colors, it pops. Like I can't say enough good things about this movie. And this is definitely a movie that like people have said this multiple times tonight, but when it's on, you have to watch it. You can't look away if you walk in a room and someone's watching The Godfather. You're not just gonna like be, oh cool, see you later. Like I'm gonna stick around for a minute and watch this movie with you because it's the greatest movie that I've ever seen in my entire life. Really.
Have you ever read the book?
Oh yeah.
I've never. I'm sorry.
The book is great, man, and you get to know more of the little details that go on that happen in that movie. It's stuff that they left out. That excellent.
Yeah, and for me, like I picked Godfather 2 in the end because it's the one that if I decide to dive in, it's probably the one. If I'm only going to watch one, I'm going to pull that one off the shelf and probably watch it more than likely. I love the layering of 2 stories at the same time. Getting to see Vito's rise through into power while his son Michael's trying to hold on to power. I think those 2 stories are just beautifully interwoven, and you get 2 towering performances, right? De Niro and Pacino basically creating the icons that they are now in one movie together. And whether it's De Niro in that stairwell when he turned the bulb and he's just waiting and pops that guy, or he's chasing him across the roof or following him on the rooftop, or you've got the cold hard look of Pacino when his brother's being killed at his behest. Like it is acting at its top. And I just absolutely can't say enough about both films, but for me, it ended up being this one.
I gotta give dibs to part 1 in one aspect, and it's all the quotes.
So quotable.
It's the #1 quoted movie. I'm sorry. That one, it got dibs on 2 for sure.
Leave the gun, take the cannoli.
Cannoli, come on.
All right. And John, the parts that you like with Robert De Niro in the prequel stuff, that's all they cut that out of the book. That was all in the book, like the childhood stuff. The Robert De Niro
Vito is part of the original Godfather.
If they were following the book closely, they should have put that and cut it in between shots of the first film.
Well, from what I understand, the first film was so challenging to make that I think they just struggled to make what was on. Coppola was almost on the verge of getting fired apparently several times. They wanted like Robert Redford for like the lead Pacino part to play an Italian Robert Redford. Like there were so many things along the way that could have completely derailed that movie. That it turned out to be a masterpiece is not luck, but certainly a crap ton of hard work.
Have you seen one of the channels has done it where they splice it up, the 2 movies, and they do it like in order?
Yeah.
It's amazing watching it in that form. It's
definitely
that's amazing to watch too.
Yeah. TJ's throwing out some great ones that we kind of skipped over from this era. And yeah, there's a lot. I mean,
there's so many, man, so many movies.
That was the hardest thing going into this was like how many Bueller, I'm ignoring you. How many movies I was trying to pick, but it was not a challenge of like finding a movie. This was definitely the challenge of which ones do I have to leave off.
Mm-hmm. You know? And I just went with favorite movies, but I love them all.
Yeah.
And Ryan, I gotta say one thing. You remember when they go to the mattresses?
Of course.
Okay. What do you remember the address? It's I'm gonna tell you why I know the address.
Please, because I don't know that.
It's 309 West 43rd Street.
Okay.
My mom's house is 309 East 43rd Street. And I always thought that was so freaking cool, man. I'll never forget that.
Your neighborhood getting called out. That's awesome.
That's awesome when I watched that movie, man.
I realized after a couple of seconds that Bueller is right.
He's got it the right way. Yes.
I think either he wanted to make a joke and he messed up putting his greater than, less than the correct way there, or he did it intentionally just to check you all. But The Godfather is better than Mrs. Doubtfire. I agree. That's accurate.
Can a wrench put another wrench in timeout?
Sadly, only Papa Fish can do that to the only Big Daddy. And I poor Mike. I will tell you, I did consider One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest as well. But again, when I do these lists, I like to really get like a snapshot of what I love. So I was trying to pick a little bit of everything. I wanted to make sure I had a good comedy on there. I wanted to make sure I had a movie representing Coppola, a movie representing Spielberg. There were things that I was trying to do that really were representative of the films that I loved. So in the end, it was like, well, I've already got a Jack Nicholson movie on here. I gotta represent somebody else.
I wanted to go a little bit crazier though.
Dude, The Warriors is a solid.
I just wanted to go a little crazier. It's just movies that I love. They might not be the most, but I love all your guys' movies, man. It's you can't go wrong, man. Look at Omega Man, Planet of the Apes, bro. Awesome movies, man.
Walking Tall. Somebody shouted out Walking Tall earlier. That's a great movie.
I have so many movies to watch. I haven't seen like.
You never heard of Walking Tall, or have you just not seen it?
I heard of the stupid remake that the Rock did.
You gotta see the original, man.
Sorry about that one.
Just
watching him take that 2x4 and beat the crap out of all those guys is bad. Not The Rock, I'm saying the original. So freaking awesome. You believe that he could do it. Yeah. Versus The Rock, you're like, yeah, they're gonna make him look cool.
Is that the movie where he throws the kick too?
Yeah.
Yes. Amazing stuff. Yeah.
That's The Rock one. I knew it.
Perry, of course, he's seen The Rock one.
That's a Perry movie, and I didn't even have to say it.
For those of you that are new to the Top 5 show, what we do is we try to end every one of these with another Top 5, a quickie that we just sort of want to throw out there to stimulate a little more discussion. As always, if you are in the chat or you're watching this on the replay, drop some of your favorite movies in the comments or in the chat here and let us know. Obviously, this chat is on fire. You guys are doing some great work, and we really appreciate it. We're going to finish this out looking at, instead of just the movies, we're going to look at the people starring in them. We're going to list our favorite actors working in this era, the ones who meant the most to us, were killing it in the 70s. Does anybody want to get started? We're just going to, each of us will just run through our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5s, or 5, 4, 3, 2, 1s. Does anybody want to get going first?
I'll go first. I don't care. I'll do it.
Hialeah's up.
All right. My number 5, because you cannot do the 70s without John Travolta, man. Who would not want to be John Travolta in the 70s? Number 4.
All the moves and all the ladies.
Exactly. Can you imagine that guy going into a disco in the 70s? Oh, my God.
Or I was going to say, or this guy down there below, what is it? Oh, God, Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds, yeah. He's two of those guys.
Come on, Smokey and the Bandit. Yeah, that's a great one.
My number 4 is Richard Dreyfuss. My number 3 is Dustin Hoffman.
Okay.
My number 2 is Pacino. And my number 1 is John Cassell.
Ooh, yeah. Off the beaten path. I love it.
That's my number 1.
Him too.
He's my number 1, man. Hands down. That guy was just fire, and
3 movies?
He doesn't get mentioned.
Was it 3 movies that he did?
I think it's like 5.
Okay.
I only know 3 of them.
Okay, Godfather 1, Godfather 2, Dog Day Afternoon,
right?
Deer Hunter.
Okay.
He was in the conversation, I believe. I believe he was in the conversation, and I think that's it. That's like 5. I might be missing one. The guy was on fire.
That's a great pick. And I will say, I had 2 of yours on my list, and there's a bunch of great ones here that I feel like DS and I are speaking the same language. I'm going to save you for last on this one, Ryan. I'm going to go next here.
Go.
I definitely had Dustin Hoffman on my list. That guy was doing some insane work. And nobody even mentioned Straw Dogs. That movie's a crazy freaking movie. from this 70s.
Nobody mentions little big man or what?
Little Big Man, yeah.
Oh.
Great one. So yeah, Dustin Hoffman was everywhere.
You gotta see Little Big Man, Ryan. You gotta watch.
You guys need to make me a list, I guess, because I have never even heard of those two movies.
You gotta watch Little Big Man.
Straw Dogs is like a hardcore, like edgy, violent movie about a couple being stuck they're in England dealing with like some very violent crime.
Yes.
So yeah, Dustin Hoffman, absolutely. Gene Hackman, he was everywhere in the 70s. Before we went live, I was talking a lot about Coppola, and I love The Conversation, which is a really underrated Coppola film from the 70s. Hackman is the lead. Harrison Ford is really young as the villain. Robert Duvall is in it. Really great cast. And I just absolutely love Hackman in that. And that sealed the deal for me on loving him as an actor forever. And of course, later you get Lex Luthor. You get the guy just was on fire.
Lex Luthor, man. Wow, I forgot about that.
Hackman.
Superman, John.
It definitely was on my list, but I was like, you know what? I would watch these before that more than likely.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah. Then I'm going to throw in a lady. Diane Keaton killed it in the 70s. You talk about all the movie, even if you just went with the Woody Allen movies, she's amazing. Annie Hall, Sleeper, like she was killing it. She's so awesome. Then you go to her other indie stuff, but then of course, The Godfather, she's in 1 and 2, and she's just killing it. So I think she was one of those ladies that just owned that period in time as far as the screen went. She just is too badass.
Was she looking for Mr. Goodbar?
Yes,
she was in that one too, right?
Yes,
good movie, man. Great pick.
Yeah. So I love me some Diane Keaton, and then I got to finish with I couldn't pick a 1 or a 2. I would just have these guys tied. It's Nicholson and Pacino. Like I couldn't pick. I would put both of those guys as my number 1. They just were. You mentioned Dog Day Afternoon, but what about 5 Easy Pieces for Nicholson on the other side? Like Nicholson was doing so many great movies. Chinatown, Cuckoo's Nest. The guy was everywhere doing everything. And I just
Easy Rider?
Yes, Easy Rider. There was just too many great things for both of those actors. Pacino and Nicholson going to tie for first place for me.
That's perfect. Nobody's going to argue with that.
Sorry, TJ's making a joke. I'm walking here. Midnight Cowboy, right?
Midnight Cowboy, man. For sure.
Dustin Hoffman. Absolutely. I'm having Diane Keaton Film Festival this weekend. Glitter and duct tape. Where's my invite? What the heck? Nobody mentioned The French Connection. I do agree, JP. Yeah. Great Hackman movie. Absolutely. Okay. Sure. Sorry, Ryan. Do you have any actors left that we didn't?
I think I had 2 on 2 of my 5. Nobody has mentioned so far.
Hey, that's awesome.
Okay, that's good.
I had Marlon Brando as my number 3.
Okay.
Based on just 2 movies.
Yep.
And
hey, he's in Superman too.
Last Tango in Paris.
Oh man.
So I don't know if that one counts.
I don't know that I want to see that one again.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I don't need to see that one. I've heard enough. I've heard enough things about that movie and Butter to make me not want to watch it.
Okay, Brando.
Upset.
Or the Apocalypse Now. You got Godfather 1, Apocalypse Now. Yeah. Superman, Tango in Paris. Man, wow. Yeah. Good one.
I picked Brando at number 3, and then I also wanted to mention Bruce Lee. I didn't want to pick him none of his movies were in the top 5, but I think as an actor, but also as a person, as a martial art, like he did a lot of cool things.
Definitely some love for Stallone. I think that's obviously Rocky is like one of those great. I saw several people mentioning Rocky as far as a 70s film, so I want to shout that out. So then, okay, what about your other 3 that we did mention? Who were the other 3?
So 5 was Bruce Lee. I had Jack Nicholson at number 4, Brando, De Niro, Pacino at number 1.
Yeah, I mean, basically, you could just grab actors from The Godfather and plug them into these lists, and I think you'd be throwing Robert Duvall in there. Absolutely, yeah, for sure. It's funny how many. If you took our lists and just pulled out the people from The Godfather, you'd have almost no actors left.
Maybe 5. Maybe a 5 non-Godfather actors list.
I wanted to shout out some people that were some films that were mentioned in the chat. All That Jazz, great movie. The Muppet movie, I love the Muppet movie. And Jack Yo, I had this as one of the 2 comedies I was picking between. The Jerk is so funny. Damn, that's a good movie. I grew up a poor black man.
The cans are exploding.
He hates these cans.
Cans.
Oh, the new phone book is here. Oh, I still do that. I still do that line all the time. The Exorcist, JP threw out The Exorcist. I agree.
Almost made my list. But I had to put Star Wars in there.
Now I think they get the gist of how hard putting this list of 5 is. Look at all these movies they're throwing. It's
absolutely.
There's
it's a great decade. And I would absolutely, if you're down at some point, Raul, we would definitely be down to do this again for the 80s, for the 90s, and roll this again because it's.
Just let me know I'm dying. I can't wait to be on with you guys again. This has been a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
Oop, The Sting, Maven Johnson, yeah. This was a blast. I have linked Raul's channel, and I've linked Ryan doesn't like it when I link his channel, so I linked Comic Tom's channel down below. So you can check out the channels where these 2 awesome guys are doing great content in this community. And then I also linked all the playlist of videos for the top 5. So if you want to go back and watch any of the other top 5 videos that Ryan and I have done, please feel free to do that because we definitely enjoy these.
One of them's on my channel, though, right? I have
it is. I think maybe even 2 of them.
Okay.
We've done TV shows like Lost and Battlestar Galactica. We've done favorite toppings for hamburgers. We've done a lot of different stuff, and you can cruise back through and enjoy some of the hilarity and, of course, in those early days, the drinking, because there were definitely some days when I had a few too many.
That would have been fun.
Yeah, let's see. I would have only had to do 2, I think. Jaws and Star Wars, right?
Yeah,
I would have done pretty well. 2. I'll tell you what, later on tonight, I'll do a couple shots just to make it up to the chat. So if you see me dropping Instagrams like crazy, you'll know why.
I just want to thank you guys for having me, man. Thank you.
Oh, man.
So much fun. So much fun.
Absolutely, man. If you guys haven't seen Hialeah Comic Bro before, you're missing out. I mean, Slab Down.
Yeah.
Friday Night Fight.
Channel doing stuff.
He is awesome. So definitely check out his stuff. Absolutely. I cannot believe I liked all of John's choices. JP is spot on. There have definitely been some top 5s where I have been. There's people that don't talk to me. Let's just put it that way. There's people that don't talk to me anymore because of my top 5 lists. And Ryan now has a cat sitting on his head in the middle of the show.
I think he's going to jump on my bookshelf.
All right. So thank you, everybody, for coming, and we hope to catch you guys again soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Good night, y'all.